Deb Brown. Good evening, President of the Council, my fellow council members, and to all of you here tonight. I want to thank you again for this opportunity to update the visions, issues, and pressing matters we face in the city of Kingston. After many long and late nights of coming up with a workable budget for the city, the Common Council passed it in December. A lot of line items were discussed and debated. Department heads were interviewed and asked to make adjustments whenever possible. We were working with a lower tax cap requirement from Albany. This made the process more onerous, with so much needed for the city left on the table. Our wish lists for the future now become urgent concerns for the present. As you are well aware, we have had an ongoing battle to keep our infrastructure functioning. Many anticipated failings, in addition to unexpected breakages, has put a strain on our finances and the employees directly involved. Last year, Kingston initiated an asset management as a tool to keep us informed and to draw attention to the life cycle of any given property and infrastructure in the city. A thorough analysis was done on all departments in the way of inventory, needs and wants of infrastructure matters. Priorities were identified. Infrastructure continues to be one of our main focuses. We cannot let the past negligence be our future. We are striving to be proactive rather than active. This brings me to the subject of the sales tax revenue for the city of Kingston and the county's attempt to usurp our portion. For many decades, Kingston has been the beacon for the poor, elderly housing, social services, and low-income housing. We have been sensitive to those needs, but these cost money. The taxpayers in Kingston had absorbed those bills via taxes on the city residents, taxes which had continued to rise as the needs became greater. In addition, we provided services to 33 county-owned buildings which are tax-exempt. Last year, the county and SUNY Ulster opened a campus at the former Sophie Finn School on Marys Avenue. It was a great project, but it's also tax-exempt. Our tax foreclosure list grew as residents could not afford to pay the taxes. It was with relief to the city that the county took over the safety net costs and election expenses. We were finally able to start getting our head above water. During those talks of transferring the cost, no mention was made of the county claiming a stake to a bigger piece of the pie after the fact and going forward. And now they're asking us for a greater percentage of the sales tax revenue. I am encouraging the county to realize the impact to the city if they want to break with the status quo of what has been in place for many years. If the city fails, so does Ulster County. I do have one question. If the finances of the county coffers need to be filled, why the salary increase for legislatures along with medical coverage? I know there will be rulings on the county level that the raises are a small part of their budget. I say it's all about perception. It all adds up. The real estate market appears to be on the upswing in Kingston for the commercial parcels. Several of our commercial properties have sold in recent months. An exciting addition is a food emporium which is going into the old Woolworth building in Uptown. The new owners have spent millions in renovations preparing for the new vendors. This was a building that was languishing on the real estate market for many years, and now it stands to be a vibrant asset to the Uptown businesses. The Rupco project on Cedar Street is moving forward, which will encompass housing the lower and moderate income households. The Lace Mill Factory building, once an eyesore, is now apartments to artists. They have been a welcome presence to the Midtown neighborhood. Along with the artists comes artist-related manufacturing. Within one block of the Lace Mill housing are other thriving businesses dedicated to the arts. Last year, I and several other council members took a tour of these facilities. I was totally amazed at the industry and how many people they employ. Over 60, hopefully plus more. We are grateful to the arts community for their contribution to our local economy and the enthusiasm they bring. Another business interested in Midtown Kingston is an indoor shooting range. Currently, it is an empty building. This is a unique idea and fills a niche. The owner, Dr. Sawyer, is in the process of a major renovation to accommodate his vision. It would be one of the first in our area in recent years. His customer base would be licensed gun owners. Law enforcement agencies would have access to the facility for required training and for maintaining their skills. With the police academy now located at the SUNY Ulster campus on Marys Avenue, this would be a welcome addition to their curriculum. We as a city cannot afford to discriminate against or discourage the entrepreneurial spirit. We should welcome new business with open arms. Let's not send a message that we are a difficult city to deal with when it comes to new economic growth. There are a lot of other cities who are vying for any kind of new businesses and economic development. We do not have the luxury of discouraging them from coming here with their innovative ideas. Other projects in the work is building a better Broadway. Yes, it is a controversial project, but I am hopeful that all the concerns will be worked out in the ensuing years. It will be completed in stages. We have a major renovation going on at the Kingston High School campus, which is long overdue. The building was falling into disrepair after many years of neglect, which was due to budgetary concerns and the need to hold taxes down. It has finally come to the point where the problems can no longer be ignored or denied. Unfortunately, now it comes with a bigger price tag. The Kingston Green Line is moving forward with great anticipation. A lot of dedicated volunteer workers are making that a reality. And the same with the Catskill Mountain Railroad, which unfortunately has seen its plans revised. No matter what side of the controversy you are on, there is no denying it has brought a stream of revenue and tourism to the county and to the city of Kingston. The traffic signals are now in place on Washington Avenue. And my favorite, the Flatbush and Route 32 intersection. You no longer have to sit there for like 20 minutes waiting for the lights to turn. So that was great that was done. The Washington Avenue sinkhole is in the midst of construction, which hasn't been problem-free, but it is in progress. This speech would not be complete without thanking the fire department for their services. In recent years, our fire department has been participating in disaster training and acquiring the skills to protect the city against major disasters. One major disaster is on the rails and tankers that transport the Bakken crude oil through the heart of Kingston. With the possibility that a derailment of this cargo could cause a massive inferno, our fire department has devised, in conjunction with Ulster County and the state, a response plan. In the past 2 years, our Kingston Fire Department has spent over 1,000 hours training for hazardous material emergencies, with a derailment being the worst-case scenario. This issue brings me to the next concern we as citizens face with outside entities affecting our quality of life. I am talking about the Pilgrim Pipeline. Recently, the Common Council unanimously enacted a memorizing resolution against the pipeline. This project would transport oil, petroleum products, from New Jersey to Albany, New York. Pilgrim is currently going through the process of a permit and environmental approval, with New York State being one of the co-lead agencies for the environmental review. With obvious reasons, this is not a project in the best interest for Kingston. With an underground pipeline running alongside the thruway, and you got the railroad coming through the heart of the city, the most dangerous would be the Bakken crude oil. Currently, this oil is already being transported by rails through the city of Kingston. Why would we want to double our risk of the worst-case scenario, leakage with contamination, and major explosions upon our city? Brings new meaning to the saying, rings of fire. The Building and Safety Divisions, under the direction of Kingston Fire Department, has done a fine job in addressing the code violations of structures within the city limits. We have seen how derelict buildings and neighborhoods bring down property values of surrounding homes, and this department has the task of abating those concerns. DPW maintains our streets and infrastructures. We have a tendency to take them for granted, but we all know who we call for a water or sewage line breakage and how relieved we are once they are repaired and back in service. And let's not forget the plowing, which we have been fortunate this year to be less of a task. Most recently, we have counted on the DPW workers to offset the costs of infrastructure repairs before we have to call in the big guns. A thank you to all employees at City Hall who do their jobs in keeping the City Hall open and functioning for all of our residents. Kingston Police Department, along with the Sheriff Department, has had a daunting task in holding back the drug trade, which has made its presence in Ulster County. We as citizens need to appreciate their service as they do things in the line of the duty most of us would abhor. To hide our heads in the sand and not acknowledge the heroin problem, the drug of choice, is foolhardy. I've had conversations with state legislatures and medical providers regarding these concerns. All recognize that the police, unfortunately, have to be enforcers of the law, medical providers in the field with administering the antidote for drug overdoses, and act as social workers in addressing the drug and mental health issues of our citizens. This is unfair and not the right solution for our law enforcement agencies and to the victims of a drug and alcohol addiction. We have a problem, as we can see by the obituaries and news reports. Our youth and young adults are dying from overdoses or accidents related to their addiction, and also suicide. Quite a few of the drug deaths go unreported just because of the nature of the death. I'm asking for a call of action from the county and city, starting with a major dialogue of all agencies involved, to combine resources to address this problem. Right now, we have several agencies and coalitions offering services, but they really do not connect to each other. We need a gatekeeper to inform, advise, and refer to the appropriate service or agency in a timely manner. The same can be said for our citizens in need of mental health services. We are fast approaching a crisis mode. We need more detox centers, sober living housings, inpatient and outpatient rehab facilities, and safe havens for our mentally ill. Not just evaluate, medicate, and release to the streets. Jail should not be the only option. Recently, the city of Ithaca is moving forward with an approach to drugs and drug policies that crosses new territories for their city, New York State, and the United States. The plan targets 4 areas: prevention, treatment, harm reduction, and law enforcement. It calls for methadone clinics, more Suboxone prescribers, and a law enforcement-assisted diversion program known as LEAP. It is a culmination of a year and a half of work after the mayor convened a group of community experts and leaders. We are fortunate to have a local office of our senator for New York State here in Kingston. Senator Amador is chairman of the New York State Alcohol and Drug Task Force and co-chair for the Heroin Task Force. Additionally, another Ulster County, New York State Senator, Jim Seward, is the chair of the New York State Insurance Committee and a member of the Heroin Task Force. We need to have insurance companies pay for longer care in our inpatient, outpatient rehabs, much like they do for cancer treatments that can sometimes be endless depending on the diagnosis. Take away the stigma and the misconceptions of mental illness. At the same time, health insurance companies need and should be required to address the mental illness health coverage with more than a cursory glance at the problem. These are issues which in some cases causes the drug and alcohol addiction due to self-medication. With the expectation that Kingston Hospital might be closing, this would be a good time to cultivate and explore the idea of using it as a facility, either as a private or public entity, with the help from the state level. Not to be insensitive to this subject, but this would bring good jobs to Kingston. We could be helping to treat the addicts while at the same time bringing new careers and employment to the city. There is a great need for both. Lastly, on the subject, I urge all to contact our representation to the state and offer support for recent bills being presented to the New York State in addressing these concerns. These bills originally were submitted last year and passed the Senate floor, only to die on the Assembly floor. Senator Amador once again reintroduced them in January of this year. These package of bills were introduced to help decrease the heroin deaths and put more drug dealers behind bars for peddling dangerous opioids. It would have enhanced treatment options for opioid abuse. Collective voices need to be heard to convince Albany of this urgent matter. I would start with the Assembly and find out why it did not pass. I have a list of bills with me tonight if anybody would like to see and read the details of each individual bill. Kingston is a city that does care for its citizens. We are a diverse city with many issues, but I am certain we all have our eyes on making the city great again. We have special interest groups that draw attention to the arts, the environment, economic business development, and quality of life issues. We will have debates and disagreements, which sometimes will be emotional, heartfelt, and seem impossible to overcome. I am certain that every one of us that ran for alderman because we want to make our home safe, secure, and financially sound. We may disagree on how to get there, but we all have the same final destination in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair will now recognize